Hey guys, welcome back. So, as I mentioned in the description of video 3, which is chapter 2 of The Bone Witch, I had to abruptly stop reading and recording the video because this lip ring decided to just come undone on its own. Don't know how it happened, don't know why it happened, but it happened. So it's fine, it's back in there. My wife helped me find the ball to it. Luckily she has really good eyes for spotting small things. No, that's not a sexual joke. Maybe a little bit, but you have to understand the inside joke. That's a part of that. So we will be picking off where we left off in chapter 2 and continuing on to read chapter 3 because I believe most definitely I owe y'all that. So bear with me. Hopefully this doesn't happen again. And we have another little co-star in the back. Malachi decided to wake up, so he's all happy and joyous to be back here with us again. So here we go. We're going to start off again. We had just started the part where the bard is talking to T, about the meal that she was preparing for them that night. So that would be page 19 if you have this paperback version. Okay, so in contrast, her meal was simpler: a glass of water, choice fruits, and raw vegetables, and servings of sliced roomberry. I never did acquire the taste of roomberry wine. I preferred to eat them raw. These are not from Stranger's Peak. The roomberries that grew in that desolate region were smaller and rounder, like brown peaches. These were larger and paler in color. They're from Merkwick. Have you heard of the place? But Mistress T, these roomberries are of leisure quality than even Asha apprentices are given to eat. That's true, but they remind me of my years spent as a novice. In my Ashika, I hated the acid taste and yearned for the day I was old enough to take them in wine, as every proper Asha did. But when I turned 16, I found the wine bland and disappointing. As terrible as the fruit was, I had grown used to the taste. I selected a larger slice, lifted it to her lips, and bit down. She chewed briefly and closed her eyes. Sometimes it is good to remind ourselves how bitterness tastes. So, that will end our chapter 2. We'll start chapter 3 here shortly. That was pretty interesting, I will say the least. We're getting a lot of information. During that, I'm going to drink a little something because my mouth is extremely dry. And I'm going to move my little thing that I use as my bookmark back so that until I dig out a bookmark. I have some, I just haven't dug them out, much less chosen the right bookmark I want to use for said book. Actually, I have a couple more ordered, and I can't wait for them to come in. And so with that, it's in its places, just little stickers that I use in my planner. So chapter 3 starts on page 21 and ends on page 31. So it's another 10-page chapter. These are actually going by pretty fast. And if that's anything, then I could definitely probably most certainly get through this book before half of the month is over with. I'm pretty sure of it. Because on weekends, I bet you I could probably sit here and read 3 chapters. 4. I can't say anything about this weekend. We're going to have 10 kids at this house. But that's neither said or done. So, here we go. Chapter 3. We arrived at the village of Merkwick 4 hours later to purchase supplies for our journey to Coin and also to find horses for Fox and me to ride. Merkwick differed from Knight's Cross in two ways. While my village dabbled mainly in farming produce, the people here involved themselves in the roomberry trade, and unlike Knight's Cross, they welcomed bone witches with open arms. Roomberries were a willful and tractable breed, Lady Michaela told me. They grow only where their forebears had and wither away when uprooted into unfamiliar pastures, even with soil richer for farming. And so they grow in places like Stranger's Peak, where the cold bites at the marrow and only strong, foul-tasting Galicia can chip away at the blood that freezes in your veins each night, but where the fruit is the best and most expensive of its kind. Or as far away as the desert bliffs of Dracht, where they prize the stems better than the crop and sell them to the most fashionable ateliers in all 8 kingdoms to be woven into cloth. Or in the village of Merkwick, where the species of runeberries, owing to the moderation of the seasons in its contradictory nature, produces a far inferior quality. For all that, it remains highly sought after among those who cannot tell the difference. The village chief refused to accept payment for the roomberries Michaela purchased, and the people treated her with gratitude verging on worship. I learned to reason for it much later, when a young girl approached me and shyly asked if I was the Asha's daughter. "She's a bone witch," I said without thinking, "not an Asha, and I'm not her daughter." The girl's smile vanished. Before I could react, she delivered a stinging slap across my cheek, and I stumbled back. "You dare insult Lady Michaela?" she snapped and raised her hand again. Fox's fingers closed around her wrist. The girl yanked her hand away and the anger left her face, leaving only fear. She hurried away without another look back. "Bone witches are Asha T," Fox told me, although most would use the former as an insult. My cheek burned where the girl had struck it. I had no idea of the offense I'd given. Lady Michaela was exquisite, and she certainly wore the type of clothes I imagined an Asha would. But I couldn't envision her beloved by the people or entertaining the rich and ennobled the way the Asha in my books did. She's loved by the villagers of Merkwick, Fox pointed out. The magic she uses might be taboo to some, and Eldalia as a whole is suspicious of spellbinders. But there are still parts of the kingdom where that makes little difference. I wanted to ask him more questions, but I hesitated. I couldn't look at my brother and not see a walking, talking corpse. And for all Lady Michaela's patient explanations, I was afraid death might change him somehow. That something else had returned in his stead and wore his face. He could no longer maintain a heart's glass, or the parlor never left him, and sometimes his legs creaked and spasmed when he moved. But Fox made no complaints and bore his death with a restraint I did not have. Unlike us, he did not need sleep nor food, and spent his time standing guard while Michaela completed the rest of her purchases. I noticed something else. Where Fox walked, he cast no shadow. With a quick look behind me, I was relieved to see that I, at least, still had a shade to my name. If the villagers knew of my brother's condition, they gave no sign of it. He was quiet and said very little, the way he had always done in life. But something was missing. He was calm and confident, and his eyes were still kind, but that tiny, indefinable spark that made Fox Palafly was gone. That secret guilt I would carry around with me for many long months afterward. Fox smiled at me. He didn't talk much for the rest of the day, but remained close at hand. I think he knew my fears, but could not assure me otherwise. Lady Michaela took me to the village roomberry fields to watch the fruit ripen. Planted only the day before, Merkwick's roomberries sprouted overnight from tiny budding shoots to slender stalks of unopened blossoms heavy with potential. As I watched delighted, their petals unfolded to reveal bright orbs with shifting diamonds in their centers. Deeming slightly when I approached, but bursting into color when they thought no one saw. The villagers gathered up the black seeds that fell as the fruit was plucked to sow again once the harvest was done. This will tide us over until we get to coin, Michaela said. Rather than press the fruit and serve it as wine, she asked the villagers to carve them into slices to eat with goose flower tea. Its bitterness stained my mouth, but Michaela insisted, once every morning for a year, starting today, twice a month after that, more if you are able. I don't recall my sisters ever eating these for breakfast. I hated the way the berries took command of my tongue and forbade all other taste for hours afterward. You are not a forest witch, and neither are you a water witch. Your sisters are medicine women, not spellbinders. They do not weave the kinds of magic we can. Bone witches like us need their strength, and for good reason. Roomberries will put the iron in your blood and the steel in your spine. Why do you call yourself a bone witch and not an Asha? Lady Michaela busied herself storing bundles of roomberries into her horse's large saddlebags before replying. I am an Asha, T. I am also a bone witch. I cannot be one without being the other, and it would do both of us good to remember that there will always be people who ignore the first in order to commend me for the second. The secret is to find pride in both, T. The good as well as the bad. It will help you do what needs to be done regardless of what they see you as. Mistress Michaela, one of the villagers approached us, a young boy with pleading eyes and smattering of blue across his heart's glass. I did not understand, but Lady Michaela did. She reached into the bags and pulled out a small pouch and signaled for Fox and me to follow. The boy led us to one of the smaller houses. Inside, an old woman lay groaning on the bed, her eyes clouded with fever. Lady Michaela gently lifted the blankets off of her and glanced at her heart's glass, green tinged and clouded against her chest. Bones melt, she said. Common for her age, but already at an advanced stage. What is your name, boy? Tanner, milady. Boil me some hot water, Tanner, and fetch me a clean bowl. Lady Michaela took packs and jars from her pouch, all containing assortments of dried herbs. She mixed some of each into a bowl and pinched from one, a larger dose from another, more dividing them into smaller portions, pouring all but one into folded paper packets with an efficiency of one who did this often. The last she added to the hot water. This is a mixture of enderroot, sage, and adult. Your grandmother must drink a bowl of this 3 times a day after every meal, she instructed. When the potion runs out, boil her a fresh batch. 1 packet for every pot. Remember that. They should last you 4 months, but I should be back before then. Mistress Michaela, there was someone else at the door. This time it was a young woman whose husband had broken his leg in a fall. We followed Lady Michaela as she moved from house to house treating the sick and the injured. I could not figure out how the Asha knew their ailments with only a glance at their heart's glass. But I noticed a pattern. The sickly were green-hued, family members blue with worry. There was orange for disinterest, yellow for fear, and red for their owner if their owners were healthy and happy. My mentor asked for nothing in return, and my confusion grew with every visit. My books told me that Asha could heal the sick, but I had always assumed it was through magic. The reality was very different. The villagers gave us a simple meal of bread and vegetables, but the Asha ate no more than a few bites. It was evening by the time she was done making her rounds, and the village chief asked us to stay for the night, citing the lateness of the hour. There's something troubling you, Garrett, Lady Michaela said, smiling. I can see it in your heart's glass. I looked and saw faint blue ripples through the surface of his pendant. You're right, mistress. The old man apologized. I am worried. It will be the 7th day of the 7th month tomorrow, and I wonder, the time is growing close to when that thing rises again. Merkwick is the nearest village where it could vent its fury. I am very much afraid. I have not forgotten, old friend, Lady Michaela interrupted him. Rest easy. I will deal with the matter tomorrow, as I always have. We are, as always, in your debt, Lady Asha. Is there anything else you require? There are 2 things. I would like a shovel and perhaps a small sword for Sir Fox over here. I will have them ready for it before you leave, the old man bowed. The blue in his heart glass faded until only its red hue remained. They gave us the largest room at the dancing room, Merkwick's only inn, at the village chief's request. The innkeeper offered Fox another, but my brother turned it down, calmly pointing out that the dead had no need for sleep. I'm sure it unnerved the man, but Fox had never been one to mince words. I could sense Fox why he occupied himself in the village, and was surprised to learn that the connection existed between us, however faint. What did you expect? Lady Michaela asked, sitting on her bed. She had traded in her beautiful blue and green dress for a silk robe more suitable for sleep. When the woman's underclothes were stunning, the rough chasm I had brought along looked ungainly and coarse in comparison. The bond between an Asha and her familiar is strong and difficult to break. You'll learn more once you return the coin. What's going to happen tomorrow? The woman took something round and carefully wrapped in paper from her pouch. When she looked back at the sheets, I saw a black stone, crumbled and decayed and covered in mold. This is a bezoar, she told me. When fresh, it is a powerful antidote to many illnesses. But in a few days' time, not even ashes shall remain. Tomorrow, we shall bring back a fresh specimen. She slid into her bag, took a quick glance back at me. You may ask me any other questions you have in mind. You must have many. I could see the colors of the villagers' heart glass changing. I never noticed that before. Using the dark runes for the first time made you more attuned to magic. That is all. Most people know 3 kinds of Asha tea. The first are performing Asha, known for their dancing and their singing, though their magic may be weaker than others. The second are fighting Asha, known for their magic and their prowess, though they may not be the most gracious of hosts. The third are dark Asha like us, the strongest of them all. Does this make my sister Asha as well? Your siblings can sense magic, but purple hearts prove they are not powerful enough to even the weakest of Asha. They make for good apothecaries and ateliers, that is true, but they cannot harness magic strong enough to shape it accordingly to their will. Asha means 2 things in Old Runic. The first is truth, the second, spellbinder. That is what we must do. We bind the magic and force it to do as we command. Rose may be a good healer, but she cannot see illnesses in heart glass. And Lilac may be a good diviner, but she is not strong enough to summon as much as fire. They can draw a heart's rune, but that remains the extent of their abilities. Do you not find it odd that it is the custom of even the most remote villages to wear heart glass? When my parents wedded, they exchanged them as proof of their love. They had never lost their hearts in the 20 years since their marriage. My eyes betrayed me. They wandered to Lady Michaela's neck, to her empty heart glass. I jerked my gaze away, but already Lady Michaela's eyes grew pinched, like she had tasted something tarter than runeberries. For a moment she looked so sad that I worried I had given offense yet again. But only said, "Then that is evidence of your parents' fidelity." But one of the original purposes of heart glass was to find people who can wield the magic to take them to be trained. And then there are a rare few like you who did not wait until they are 13 years old to make their presence known. It was only by a stroke of luck that I was at the right place and time to sense the dark you drew, to summon Fox. You would have fared worse otherwise. I worked up my courage. Lady Michaela, what happened to your heart glass? Her silence was the only reply I received. She turned and blew out the candles, and the room was plunged into darkness. I laid in bed and listened to the rustle of her clothes and the squeak of the mattress as it settled beneath her. When she spoke again, her words rang out like steel hammers. That is enough questions for tonight. We will rise early tomorrow. It was not easy to fall asleep in strange surroundings. I missed my small bed and my little house in Knight's Cross, and already I missed my family. I thought about the heart's glass my parents wore, about the hearts Daisy was constantly losing. Now that I knew the truth, I couldn't help but feel cheated. Her explanation of them sounded so commonplace, less exciting than my books led me to believe. And I was to be an Asha. After everything that had happened, I had little time to appreciate my situation. All my childish play at the pretending to be a famous Asha of my stories now felt ridiculous. Did Taki of the Silk and Nadine of the Whispers feel this way? I wondered. Were they uprooted from the families they loved and sent to unfamiliar places because the magic that brought them there first gave them no choice? I fell asleep with those melancholy thoughts. In the midst of my strange circumstances, Fox's quiet presence in my mind was reassuring. Dead as he was the only familiar thing I had felt. The wind blew heavy pockets of sand across the beach, blanketing everything with grit and ground. But the grave remained pristine, free of mud and soil. The girl knelt, polished the heavy stone in the heat of the tomb. She watered the small budding flowers that sprouted up along the green edges. What do people say of me? They believe that you have turned fully to the dark, my lady, that you have joined the ranks of the faceless, and that you are preparing to lead the people of the lie to war. And do you believe them? I chose honestly. I do not know, my lady. I cannot blame you. The three who claim to lead the faceless have drawn in the dark. Most cannot tell us apart. Yusi leads the southern fashion. He makes a fortress out of the mountains in Doningworth and calls himself king, but he is all bark and blister. George, the wielder, he sows his discord in the west, and all city-states of Yodasha can pay a dear amount of money for his head. And as Ania, the last leader, she pauses. A curious, bitter smile is on her lips. Not much is known about her, save that she originally hailed from Thestria. Mistress T, I asked, who is buried here? The grass stained her dress as she lay beneath the grave, laid her cheek against the ground. Sadly, she said, a boy who died for me. So that is the end of chapter 3. And we will start chapter 4 tomorrow. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed.